I hesitate to say this, but I won't be honest also if I don't say it.
In the wake of Pope Francis's sudden death, Cardinal Luis Tagle, a potential successor with access to the Vatican's most guarded secrets, just exposed the deepest secrets of the Vatican. Their extraordinary relationship, built on shared vision yet marked by controversy, now faces scrutiny as whispers of financial scandals and buried truths threaten to surface. The big question is, did Tagle expose the Vatican's veiled realities as revenge or redemption? Let's find out. The Vatican's veiled truths. In the solemn wake of Pope Francis's death on April 21, 2025, rumors began swirling throughout Vatican City and beyond about potential revelations from Cardinal Luis Tagle. As the Catholic world mourned the passing of its 266th pontiff, whispers emerged suggesting that Tagle, a close confidant of the late pope, might expose long-held Vatican secrets as part of a shifting power dynamic ahead of the upcoming conclave. These rumors point to a historical pattern that has repeated itself throughout church history. The death of a pope often creates a moment of institutional vulnerability when carefully guarded information may surface as internal power structures realign. The transition between pontificates frequently becomes a period when the Church's most closely held secrets face the greatest risk of exposure. The announcement of Pope Francis's death came from Cardinal Kevin Farrell in a somber declaration that echoed throughout St. Peter's Square. Music, Francesco Mattina Roma Francesco Sora Yes Sir. With these words, a period of significant transition began for the Catholic Church, one that could potentially reveal aspects of Vatican governance previously shielded from public view. Perhaps most significant among the potential revelations are the financial scandals that persisted despite Pope Francis's reform efforts. The Vatican Bank, or Institute for the Works of Religion, IR, has been at the center of controversies, with a 2012 Moneyval report revealing $8 billion in assets across 33,000 accounts and failing 7 of 16 key anti-money laundering recommendations. While Pope Francis closed 3,500 IR accounts and moved investment work to Vatican Asset Management, financial deficits persisted, with the Secretariat for the Economy facing a $75 million deficit in 2023. The most notorious financial scandal during Pope Francis's tenure involved a €350 million London real estate deal resulting in a $136 million loss and leading to Cardinal Bitu's conviction for embezzlement. In 2020, Cecilia Morona, an associate of Betsu, was arrested on a Vatican warrant, suspected of embezzling $500,000 meant for diplomacy. Pope Francis forced Betsu's resignation amid these reports. And in December 2020, he ordered the Secretariat of State to transfer all financial holdings to the administration of the patrimony of the Apostolic See following dubious investments that squandered millions. Cardinal Tagle's position in this financial landscape is complex. While not directly implicated in financial scandals, his dismissal from Caritas Internationalists in 2022 raised questions about his administrative capabilities. As a potential pope, he would inherit the ongoing financial challenges facing the Vatican, including deficits and the need for greater transparency. Beyond financial matters, the issue of clerical sexual abuse remains a shadow over the Church. Pope Francis received a large white box of scandal documents from Pope Benedict XVI, reportedly containing details on abuse, corruption, and dark dealings. The contents of this collection and how Pope Francis addressed the information it contained may now become subject to greater scrutiny. In 2019, Pope Francis convened a summit of bishops on abuse, promising to spare no effort to bring abusers to justice and abolish the pontifical secret to increase despite these efforts at transparency. Critics like Anne Barrett Doyle noted that Francis refused to make the necessary changes to address abuse effectively. Cardinal Tagle's own record on addressing clerical abuse has faced criticism. During his tenure as Archbishop of Manila, concerns were raised about his response to abuse allegations. When questioned about the lack of prosecutions for accused clergy in the Philippines, Tagle offered this explanation. But the civil legislation is different from what you find in Europe or in, other parts of the world. And do you find that most people in the Philippines are satisfied with that, with it being dealt internally within the Church? Some are generally. In fact, some would trust the canonical process better than the civil cases. This approach of handling abuse cases internally within the Church rather than through civil prosecution has drawn criticism from survivor advocacy groups, pointing to a controversial aspect of Tagle's leadership that may receive renewed scrutiny. The Vatican's diplomatic engagements represent another area where secrets may emerge following Pope Francis's death. His approach to international relations, particularly regarding China and Russia, generated controversy. The Vatican's agreement with China on bishop appointments, which critics argued abandoned the underground church to persecution, and Pope Francis's dialogue with the Russian Orthodox Church after Russia's invasion of Ukraine raised questions about the Vatican's diplomatic priorities. Cardinal Tagle's own diplomatic stance, particularly his defense of the Vatican-China agreements, aligned with Pope Francis's approach. He argued these agreements would reassure, comfort, and enliven Chinese Catholics, dismissing criticisms from figures like Cardinal Joseph Zen, who highlighted human rights concerns. The controversies surrounding Israel's criticism of Pope Francis provide additional context for understanding sensitive diplomatic issues facing the Church. In December 2024, Israel accused Pope Francis of double standards after he condemned Israeli airstrikes in Gaza. This accusation followed Pope Francis's remarks about a December 20, 2024, airstrike that killed 10 members of a family, including 7 children, in northern Gaza. Pope Francis called the bombing of children cruelty, stating, "Yesterday children were bombed. This is cruelty. This is not war. I wanted to say this because it touches the heart." Israel's foreign ministry responded sharply, describing the Pope's remarks as particularly disappointing, as they are disconnected from the true and factual context of Israel's fight against jihadist terrorism, a multi-front war that was forced upon it starting on October 7, 2023. They argued that the Pope ignored the actions of Hamas, including holding hostages and using civilians as shields, calling for an end to double standards and the singling out of the Jewish state. This diplomatic tension highlights the geopolitical challenges that will confront the next pope, including navigating complex conflicts where moral clarity may conflict with diplomatic considerations. Cardinal Tagle, if elected, would inherit these diplomatic relationships and the expectations they create for papal leadership. Pope Francis's own controversial statements throughout his papacy provide another dimension for understanding the Church's secret struggles between tradition and reform. Pope Francis made several statements on LGBTQ+ matters that attempted to balance inclusivity with traditional doctrine. His famous 2013 remark, "Who am I to judge?" when asked about gay priests suggested a more welcoming tone while maintaining the Church's position that homosexual acts are sinful. Similarly, his approach to divorce and remarriage, political engagement, and international relations often sought to balance reform with tradition, creating a complex legacy that any successor would need to interpret and extend. Cardinal Tagle's own positions mirror this balanced approach, suggesting potential continuity in navigating these sensitive issues. The Vatican Apostolic Archive, renamed by Pope Francis in 2019 from the Vatican Secret Archive, represents another potential source of revelations during this transitional period. In March 2020, Pope Francis ordered the opening of archives related to Pope Pius XIII, 1939 to 1958, allowing scholars access to documents covering World War II-era activities. This move toward transparency created precedent for further archival disclosures that might occur under new leadership. While viral photos purportedly showing Pope Francis inside the Vatican archives have been debunked, likely confusion with either a March 2025 hospital photo or fake AI-generated images from 2023, the archives themselves remain a repository of historical and potentially controversial information. Access to these records and how they are interpreted could shape understanding of Church history and inform future policy decisions. For researchers interested in authentic photographs of Pope Francis inside the Vatican, the primary sources are Vatican Media, Produzione Fotografica, and the Vatican Museum's photo library. These institutions maintain official images documenting papal activities, providing a visual record of Pope Francis's pontificate that will inform historical assessments of his leadership. The potential revelation of Vatican secrets in the wake of Pope Francis's death creates both challenges and opportunities for Cardinal Tagle and the Church as a whole. While exposing past failures could temporarily damage the Church's reputation, increased transparency might ultimately contribute to more effective reform. The transitional period between pontificates represents a critical moment for the Catholic Church to address its institutional weaknesses and chart a course for renewal. As the Church prepares for the conclave scheduled to begin on May 7, 2025, the rumors surrounding Cardinal Tagle's potential revelations underscore the complex dynamics of Vatican politics. Whether these rumors prove substantive or mere speculation, they highlight the tension between institutional secrecy and the growing demand for transparency in religious leadership. This tension will inevitably shape the selection of Pope Francis's successor and the direction of the Catholic Church in the years to come. Be our extraordinary bond. The relationship between Pope Francis and Cardinal Luis Tagle represents one of the most significant partnerships in modern Catholic Church history. Characterized by shared values, mutual respect, and a vision for a more inclusive, socially engaged faith community, their connection transcended mere professional association, creating a mentor-protégé dynamic that positioned Tagle as both a trusted lieutenant and potential successor. Born on June 21, 1957, in Manila, Philippines, Tagle's path to becoming Pope Francis's close confidant began long before either held their respective positions of leadership. Tagle's journey to priesthood took an unexpected turn as he revealed in an interview, "So I was bent on really going to RTOA to become a doctor." "Your parents wanted you to be a doctor?" "Yes." "And I also wanted it." And I did well in the sciences, math courses." His entrance into seminary life came through an unusual circumstance. "So I went to the proctor. I said, 'What do I put here?' He said, 'Priesthood.' I said, 'Why priesthood?' I said, 'This is an entrance exactly the seminary.' So he was, yes, I was tricked. Yeah. And I was so angry." This unconventional beginning to Tagle's religious vocation parallels Pope Francis's own unexpected journey to the papacy, perhaps creating a point of connection between the two leaders who never sought the highest offices they eventually held. Their professional collaboration took significant form when Pope Francis appointed Tagle prefect of the Congregation for the Evangelization of Peoples in 2019, a key Vatican position overseeing global missionary work. This appointment represented a significant vote of confidence, placing Tagle in one of the most influential roles in the Church's governance structure. Further cementing this trust, in 2020 Tagle was elevated to Cardinal Bishop, the first Filipino to achieve this rank. Additional appointments followed, including membership in the administration of the patrimony of the Holy See and various congregations, creating a pattern of advancement that reflected Pope Francis's high regard for Tagle's capabilities and vision. This professional relationship was reinforced by their shared commitment to social justice and concern for the marginalized. Both leaders emphasized the Church's responsibility to address poverty, inequality, and environmental degradation. Tagle's perspective on economic justice in the Philippines reflects this shared priority, and I remember it was close to election time at that time. And then so I asked him also how do you choose, the mayor or among the candidates, etc. And he told me, "I have lived through 4 presidents and I'm still a driver." This focus on the lived experiences of ordinary people, particularly those experiencing poverty, mirrors Pope Francis's consistent emphasis on a church for the poor. Their alignment on this issue created both ideological and practical bonds as they worked together to implement this vision through Vatican initiatives and global outreach. Beyond professional collaboration, Tagle and Pope Francis developed a warm personal relationship. In February 2025, during Pope Francis's health crisis, Tagle led a prayer service at St. Peter's Square for his recovery, demonstrating personal concern for the pontiff's well-being. In a 2020 interview, Tagle expressed gratitude for Pope Francis's leadership, underscoring their personal connection. Their bond was not without challenges, however. The most significant professional setback in their relationship came in November 2022 when Pope Francis terminated Tagle's presidency of Caritas Internationalis following an independent review. This review identified management and procedural deficiencies affecting staff morale, though no financial or sexual misconduct was reported. While this decision might have strained their relationship, Tagle maintained his other Vatican positions and continued to be viewed as a close ally of Pope Francis, suggesting that their connection transcended this particular challenge. The nickname Asian Francis, frequently applied to Tagle, highlights the perception of their alignment in vision and approach. Both leaders emphasized mercy over judgment, dialogue over pronouncement, and pastoral sensitivity over rigid doctrine. This comparison reflects not only their similar progressive orientations but also the mentorship dynamic that existed between them, with Tagle often implementing and extending Francis's vision within his own spheres of influence. Their theological alignment is particularly evident in their approach to contested issues within the Church. Both have advocated for a more compassionate approach to divorced and remarried Catholics, greater inclusion of LGBTQ+ individuals, and emphasis on environmental stewardship as a moral imperative while maintaining traditional positions on issues like abortion and euthanasia. They share a nuanced approach that prioritizes pastoral care over doctrinal rigidity. Tagle's leadership style, characterized by humility and authenticity, mirrors Pope Francis's own approach. When asked about his motivation for service, Tagle offered this reflection: "I hesitate to say this, but I won't be honest also if I don't say it. I think it's love. You know, you love Jesus and you love the Church because I have been loved. I have been loved, you know, even if I know I do not deserve that love, that trust from God and from the Church." This emphasis on love rather than power or ambition distinguishes Tagle in a church hierarchy often associated with institutional politics and echoes Pope Francis's own humble approach to leadership. Their communication styles also reveal significant parallels. Both leaders have embraced modern media to connect with broader audiences, particularly youth. Tagle's social media presence and television appearances represent an effort to reach younger generations. If put to good use, it could be a vehicle for evangelization and also for bringing more people to the Lord. So in that sense I deliberately do that, no being in touch with through media. This embrace of modern communication channels reflects a shared understanding of the changing landscape of religious engagement, with both leaders seeking to meet people where they are rather than expecting them to conform to traditional structures of church participation. Their approach to youth ministry emphasizes dialogue and understanding rather than authoritarian pronouncements. Said, "Why are you doubting your faith?" "Oh, so we say no. To ask questions is not a sign that someone is losing faith, maybe is searching for, faith, looking for intelligence where, intelligence, blind faith." This openness to questions aligns with Pope Francis's call for a church that listens and accompanies rather than simply pronounces judgment, creating another point of connection in their pastoral approach. As close as their relationship was, Tagle maintained a characteristic humility when asked about potentially working in Vatican City. I don't think so, I don't think they want me there." This humility, whether genuine or strategic, presents a stark contrast to the power dynamics traditionally associated with Vatican politics and mirrors Pope Francis's own reluctance to embrace the trappings of papal authority. The depth of their relationship positioned Tagle as a logical successor to continue Pope Francis's legacy of reform. Having appointed nearly 80% of the current cardinal electors, Pope Francis shaped a college of cardinals that might be inclined toward selecting a candidate who would maintain his vision for the Church. As the Asian Francis, Tagle represents both continuity and innovation, continuing the essential priorities of Francis's pontificate while bringing his own unique perspective as the potential first Asian. Their final interaction remains private, but Pope Francis's last public days included a significant Easter message delivered on April 20, 2025, focused on peace, particularly in conflict zones like Gaza and Ukraine. The message, read by Archbishop Diego Raleigh due to the Pope's frailty, called for ceasefires, hostage releases, and global disarmament. His appearance that day was brief but meaningful. This final public message emphasizing peace and reconciliation encapsulates themes that defined both Pope Francis's pontificate and his relationship with Cardinal Tagle. Their shared commitment to peace, justice, and inclusion created a foundation for collaboration that shaped the Church's direction over the past decade and could potentially continue to influence its future under Tagle's leadership. The extraordinary bond between Pope Francis and Cardinal Luis Tagle represents more than a personal friendship or professional alliance. It embodies a shared vision for the Catholic Church's engagement with the modern world. Their relationship, characterized by mutual respect and common purpose, positioned Tagle as both a trusted confidant and potential successor, creating a legacy of collaboration that could shape the Church's direction for generations to come. An uncertain future for the Church. The death of Pope Francis marks a pivotal moment for the Catholic Church as it faces an uncertain future filled with both challenges and opportunities. His passing at 7:35 a.m. local time at his Vatican residence, Casa Santa Marta, concluded a transformative pontificate that sought to reshape the Catholic Church's engagement with the modern world. Cardinal Kevin Farrell's emotional announcement expressed both sorrow and gratitude for Pope Francis's legacy. Universal particular gratitude recomen and l'anima the Papa Francesco Alanito amore miserio the uno grossia. This solemn moment marked the beginning of a transitional period that will culminate in the conclave starting on May 7, 2025, where 133 cardinal electors will gather to select the 267th Pope. Their decision will shape the Church's direction on issues ranging from internal governance and doctrinal interpretation to social justice and global engagement. The circumstances of Pope Francis's death reflect the health challenges that characterized his final years. While the exact cause wasn't immediately disclosed, it appears his death was linked to worsening health from bilateral pneumonia, for which he was hospitalized in February 2025 for 38 days. His history of respiratory issues, including a lung surgery in 1957 and recent cancellations due to influenza, likely contributed to his decline. His last public appearance came just one day before his death on Easter Sunday, April 20, 2025, where he delivered the traditional Urbi et Orbi blessing and met with U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance. This meeting, occurring despite their previous disagreements over immigration policies, represented one of his final diplomatic engagements. The substance of their conversation remains private, but it highlighted Pope Francis's commitment to dialogue even in his final hours. Pope Francis's death triggered an outpouring of tributes from global leaders, reflecting his significant impact beyond the Catholic community. U.S. President Donald Trump called him a good man who loved the world, while former U.S. President Barack Obama described him as the rare leader who made us want to be better people. Leaders from diverse religious and political backgrounds acknowledged his moral voice and commitment to peace, underscoring his global influence. As the Church prepares for the conclave, Cardinal Luis Tagle stands as a prominent candidate to succeed Pope Francis. Often referred to as the Asian Francis, Tagle represents potential continuity with Francis's progressive agenda. His election would be historic as the first Asian pope, reflecting Catholicism's growth in Asia, particularly in the Philippines, where he served as Archbishop of Manila. However, recent reports suggest his position may be less secure than previously thought. The Guardian has noted that he has recently fallen out of favor, though specific reasons remain unclear. This shift is reflected in betting odds, with some sources showing his odds rising from €2.75 to €4, indicating a potential decline in perceived support. Several other cardinals have emerged as strong contenders, each bringing unique strengths and perspectives. Parolin, the Vatican Secretary of State, is seen as a diplomatic figure and continuity candidate. Peter Kodwo Oppia Turkson from Ghana could become the first African pope in centuries, representing the Church's growing presence in Africa. Fridolin Ambongo Bisungu from Congo also represents Africa's growing Catholic population, bringing a perspective shaped by different cultural contexts. The upcoming conclave will not merely select an individual but chart a course for the Catholic Church's future in an increasingly divided world. Will the cardinals opt for continuity with Pope Francis's reform agenda by selecting Tagle or another progressive candidate, or will they choose a more traditional figure who might reorient the Church's priorities? This decision will have profound implications for the 1.4 billion Catholics worldwide. The new pope will inherit significant challenges, including declining religious participation in many regions, ongoing abuse scandals, financial difficulties, and internal divisions. These issues demand thoughtful leadership and courageous reform to maintain the Church's relevance and moral authority in a rapidly changing global context. The Catholic Church's future also involves addressing pressing social and environmental issues. Pope Francis's emphasis on climate action, refugee rights, and economic justice set expectations that any successor will need to address. The next pope must navigate complex geopolitical tensions while maintaining the Church's moral voice on issues like war, poverty, and human dignity. For Cardinal Tagle, the prospect of becoming pope represents both an opportunity and a challenge. His close association with Pope Francis positions him as a continuity candidate, but the controversies surrounding his leadership raise questions about his readiness to address the Church's most pressing issues. His unique combination of progressive pastoral approach and traditional doctrinal adherence makes him a complex figure who could potentially bridge divides within Catholicism. The legacy of Pope Francis will inevitably influence this process. His emphasis on mercy, inclusion, and care for creation created expectations that any successor will need to address, either by continuing his approach or charting a new direction. The global reactions to his death underscored his significant impact beyond the Catholic community, creating a high standard for his successor to meet. The funeral arrangements for Pope Francis reflect his own directives for simplified rites, focusing on faith in the risen body of Christ. His body was immediately placed in a coffin upon death ascertainment, and public viewing began on April 23, 2025, at St. Peter's Basilica. The funeral is expected 4 to 6 days after death, though specific dates were pending at the time of this writing. Following the funeral, the Church will enter the formal period of sedicante vacant seat, during which the College of Cardinals governs the Church while preparing for the conclave. This interregnum period represents a time of reflection and discernment as the cardinals consider who best embodies the qualities needed for effective leadership in the current global context. The conclave itself, scheduled to begin on May 7, 2025, will take place in the Siene Chapel, where the cardinals will be isolated from outside influence as they vote for the next pope. The requirement for a 2/3 majority ensures that the successful candidate must appeal across factions and regions, potentially leading to compromised selections or unexpected outcomes. As the Church navigates this transitional period, the global Catholic community watches with anticipation and prayer. The selection of the next pope will not merely represent a changing of leadership but a statement about the Church's priorities and direction in a world marked by division, inequality, and conflict. The uncertainty surrounding the Church's future reflects broader questions about religion's role in contemporary society. Can the Catholic Church maintain relevance while upholding its essential teachings? How will it address the diverse needs of a global community of believers? What voice will it offer in addressing humanity's most pressing challenges? The answers to these questions will emerge not just from the selection of the next pope but from how the Church as a whole responds to this moment of transition. Will it embrace greater transparency and accountability? Will it continue efforts toward inclusivity while maintaining doctrinal integrity? Will it offer a prophetic voice on issues like climate change, economic justice, and peace? For Cardinal Luis Tagle, who once aspired to be a doctor before finding his religious vocation, the possibility of becoming pope represents an extraordinary journey of faith and service. Whether he emerges as the 267th successor to St. Peter remains to be seen, but his candidacy itself signals the changing face of global Catholicism. In the wake of Pope Francis's death, as the Church prepares for new leadership, Catholics worldwide continue their individual and communal faith journeys. The institutional transitions at the highest levels of Church governance intersect with personal experiences of faith, creating a complex tapestry of continuity and change that defines Catholicism's past, present, and future. The legacy of Pope Francis, who sought to create a more humble, merciful, and engaged Church, provides both inspiration and challenge for his successor. As Cardinal Farrell noted in announcing his death, Pope Francis taught the faithful to live the values of the Gospel with fidelity, courage, and universal love, in a particular way in favor of the poorest and the marginalized. This commitment to authentic gospel values represents perhaps his most enduring contribution to the Church he led for 12 transformative years. As the Catholic Church stands at this crossroads, facing an uncertain future with both challenges and opportunities, the words of Cardinal Tagle himself offer a fitting perspective on leadership in times of transition. When asked about his own ecclesiastical journey, he emphasized responding to God's call rather than pursuing personal ambition. You know, I have a deep sense of not really making it my project. My project is to respond and let him call, you know. So even now, when I try to, plan pastoral approaches or whatnot, I make sure that I'm not the one calling the shots. This attitude of humble service rather than power or control may represent the most valuable quality for the next leader of the Catholic Church as it navigates the challenges and opportunities of an uncertain future. If you love this video, click on the card showing on your screen for more videos like this.